Hey guys, Brent Build Show, 1904, that's where we are. This is the cattle baron's house. Fort Worth really grew up on oil and cattle, so this is an early 1900s house. It's going to teach us and inspire us how to build better today. We're going to look at the architectural style, we're going to look at details that are well executed, so come on and join me. So the house is owned by Historic Fort Worth, and they are really patrons of, and they take care of this house. But it's really important, right? It's an important house. Look at the grounds. We're talking about 2 acres of ground here. We have elements like a tea room, right? This outdoor tea room. We have a pergola. We have a garage, okay? The garage was one of only 2 garages in Texas that actually was built for both cars and horses. One of only 2 in Texas that are still surviving. Mr. Wagner's daughter was named Electra, okay? You know the Buick Electra? That car was named after her, okay? Her husband, A.D., owned a car dealership. This was their marriage cottage, gift from the dad. Nice gift. Now, let me show you this pergola. When we found it, it had blown down and it rotted and fallen apart. Now, if you know, when I talk about building exterior things, you have to use the right wood. We use teak, mahogany. We did this 10 or 15 years ago, still looking pretty good, maybe just needs a coat of paint, but we used original architectural drawings to get great details like this to tie into these columns. Now, I said before, this house is neoclassical, okay? And you're gonna see a lot of columns in this house. You see these columns here, you're gonna see a bunch of different details in this house, all classically correct, okay? In between that arts and crafts and Victorian, we still see some elevated things. I'm going to show you all those things when we go inside. So one of the things that should be inspirational when you look at historic houses is how they built, right? If you want to increase your stature, if you want to expand, if you want to build, you want to become that master builder I'm always talking about, you have to learn how to build at a higher level. And historic houses often teach us to do that. Just look at the entry here, right? We have these columns. These are cut stone columns. They're solid pieces of stone. We're building a lot of things with cut stone these days. I'm not sure how I'd get a column that tall, 20-foot tall, solid stone. That's pretty impressive. Look at the steps, they're marble, right? Talk about mixing and including different materials. When we went to Italy, we saw a lot of marble bases and marble wainscots and different things like that. It was a learning to use different materials and just get better, right? The porch is a tile porch, right? It's not a wood porch, it's a tile porch. Notice this beautiful entry with the leaded glass. All things, guys, that should just raise the bar, right? The roof, it's a Ludovici tile roof. It's a beautiful green glazed tile roof. Notice the brickwork, it's solid masonry walls, right? These walls are probably 2 feet thick, but the brick arches over the windows, they are not only functional, right, but they're beautiful. They're a mix of gauged bricks with cut stone. It's the way to build, right? Raise the bar, right? Go and look at these houses and learn how to build better. Come on inside. So inside, what an entry, right? This grand staircase that comes down. Now, Thistle Hill has a lot of weddings because it's just so dramatic, right? But what we're looking at is this transitional style. We're seeing arts and crafts things. We're seeing Victorian things. Remember, this is 1904. There are niches like this right here that are circular. We're gonna see a lot of circular millwork, right? The fireplaces that we're going to look at, there's no wood burning fireplaces, and you'll see that throughout the house. Now, why is that? Well, fire was such a big deal. The walls were solid masonry, the fireplaces were these coal bins and things like that because they didn't want this to burn down. Look at the detail that we've got here. We've got this bead and reel detail, right? You see it here, you see it here, you see the stenciling, a mix of this arts and crafts stuff. Notice that we've got in this library here, we've got these Stickley chairs, right? Stickley type chairs. We've got the leaded glass in the bookcases. There's a painting of Electra, right? All these neat and transitional deals. But what's happening is that all of these rooms are different, and that's kind of that Victorian eclecticism, right? That you're gonna see this room here, the parlor, and it's all paint grade, right? We've got this almost French neoclassical thing going on. Going over here, we've got a billiards room. Billiards room is awesome. When I was on the History Channel, we actually restored this billiards table. Now, we basically found this pool table in pieces downstairs in the basement. And so I kind of looked at it and went, hey, that actually looks like a pool table. So we restored this pool table, put it back together on the show for this billiards room. Now, look how masculine this room is, right? This great coffered ceiling. Notice the different beam sizes. Notice the planks on the outside. Look at this wall, right? This great English detail with the chamfered edges, quarter sawn white oak. Oh, and you want to talk about a pocket door? I know a lot of you guys do pocket doors. This door is probably 3 inches thick, right? Notice that the paneling on this side matches that paneling here. But on this side, the paneling matches this room in here. So you're going to see a lot of fun things like that where they really got playful with the different kinds of materials and they just went crazy. I mean, go build a 3-inch wide pocket door with that faces different stuff on either side, right? Those are great, fun details. So I just want to show you 2 bedrooms here, right? We've got this is the upstairs. This is where the family would have kind of lived, right? Notice you've got quarter sawn white oak on the outside of this door. Notice what's happening here. We've got all mahogany in this room, right? So we switched from quarter sawn white oak to mahogany. We're going to go through this bathroom, and that bedroom has bird's eye maple, right? What's happening? Remember I talked about in the industrial period, the Industrial Revolution, that we finally had machines that could allow us to mill hardwoods, right? So that's why you have this bird's eye maple, quarter sawn white oak, all these hardwoods in houses of this period because we finally had the machines that enabled us to use those materials on a scale like this. So I don't know if you're familiar with bird's eye maple. Bird's eye maple is actually a defect that happens in the wood that causes these little pimples, little bird's eyes, okay, that to happen. When we order maple for a job, we'll actually, 5 or 10% of it will actually be bird's eye. Now, heavily figured bird's eye maple like this is harder to get and pretty expensive. But you notice we've got the same details here. We got this bead and reedle detail on these casings, the header above, the furniture, the fireplace, all in bird's eye maple, right? It's over the top, right? It's crazy, but it's also, your clients are looking for something different with different woods. Here you go. Here's great examples of how that transition and that change of wood actually happens in a house of this period. So there's 3 things I want us to learn from looking at the past, okay? In this house in particular, I want us to learn the proper use of classicism, okay? They use the classical system, and I'm talking about the columns and beam, entablature, all those different pieces, okay? You'll see it on fireplaces, you see it in the front door, you see it in that plating window, but especially here as this separation between these rooms. Now what happens and what I see guys do is that on the interior of the space, they'll take their column and they're trying to break up a big open space, and they'll take their column and they'll stick it right to the ceiling, okay? When the proper way to do it, okay, is the way they've done it here, where we've got your columns, okay, and first of all, we've got a round column and a square pilaster, okay, a pier, okay, that's tied into the structure of the house. So this is proper, right? When you tie that column into the frame of the house, it comes out as a pier, and then you have a round column, okay? Notice too that above this we have that whole entablature I've talked about. The frieze, the architrave, the cornice, and notice the cornice supports a coffered ceiling, okay? So there's a lot of design work that goes into, one, dividing this space properly, one, dividing it so that this is a separate space from that, right? And that it looks appropriate and clean and beautiful, right? That these columns actually don't just stick up into the ceiling. This actually supports this really pretty wood beam. Notice it's paneled on the underside, and this whole entablature system, and notice the cornice. What they've done, the cornice is the cornice that wraps the room. It is the crown system, right? And I talked to you about the Simon, the Corona, and the bed mold. That's what's happening there, and they've done this really in a beautiful way. Notice too in this fireplace, we've got the same thing. We've got these columns that are supported by this architrave, a frieze, and a cornice. Notice these delicate, beautiful details here. All these details, okay, looking back at the past and understanding how to do these together. If you can do the classical system well, you can build beautiful fireplaces, beautiful entries, beautiful separation between the rooms, proper crown and cornice details. learn the classical system, go visit historic houses, see how they put it together. There's a lot of great lessons. All right, number 2. Learn the proper way to put masonry together, okay? That these historic methods of building with masonry, okay, building with brick and stone, and what it should look like. A couple quick things. This is over top of this window is called a brick arch, okay? And it's a combination of keystones and other elements, right? You see these cut stone elements and gauged brick. Now, you may remember from some of the other videos, gauged brick is actually a brick that is cut very specifically, and as the arch goes across, all those shapes change. And so if we just look at this shape here, every one of those pieces of brick is custom made for that opening. Now, why did they do that, okay? Well, that splay that happens there over the top of that window is a structural element, okay? That splay that kicks out like that actually holds the upper brick and upper stone from falling down, because before the era of steel lintels, right, that was used to support an opening. So look at the coining, okay? Coining spelled with a Q, okay? Q-U-O-I-N, right? Coining. These bricks going back and forth, right, is this thing to lock the masonry together, okay? So that these stones tie in with this brick and lock back and forth so that the solid masonry on the corner, okay, so this was originally a structural element, would have tied the house together, right? So when you do coining, when you do arches, when you put a keystone in over a window, there's a bunch of secrets, okay, for how this thing was done, and the understanding of proper masonry use will help you make things better. Number 3, raise your game, right? The curved windows in this little rotunda here, right? Notice all the details in this little section, okay? We're just on the side of the house looking at a few details. Notice that those square piers run up all the way to the top, and there's actually a brick entablature above that. Look at the keystone underneath that little Palladian window and the little finial ball on top there, how that keystone runs way up and is so decorative. But look at the curved work, guys. I don't think we do enough curved work anymore. And curved window work is something that we learned on courthouses is still very possible. There's still companies that bend the glass. There's still ways to bend the windows to make them operable. It was a sign of quality, right? A sign of ability that a craftsman or a builder 100 years ago, 115 years ago, could do curved work. And there's actually books from that period on doing circular work. We need to do more of that, right, in a competent way. Okay guys, that's the tour of the 1904 cattle bearing house, Thistle Hill, right? An awesome example of craftsmanship, quality, design, materials, right? We can learn so much from the past. We can learn about how to build better, how things were done architecturally correct 100 years ago, right? Great lessons, great teaching for us today as we study these old buildings. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, Hull Millwork, Hull Homes. Sign up for the newsletter. I'm Brent Hull. Thanks for watching.